Koffi owned only 7 chickens. Yet every morning, before the sun had fully risen over the village of Nambala, he arrived at the market, carrying baskets filled with hundreds of eggs. At first, no one questioned it, but as the weeks passed, people began to wonder. 7 chickens, hundreds of eggs, every single day. It didn't make sense. And whenever someone asked Koffi where all those eggs came from, he would simply smile and say, "Some blessings are better left unexplained." But Koffi knew exactly where the eggs came from, and he also knew there was one rule he was never supposed to break. A rule that would eventually cost him everything. 3 months earlier. Before the eggs, before the money, and before everyone in Nambala knew his name, Koffi was a poor farmer. He lived alone in a small mud brick house at the edge of the village. His roof leaked whenever it rained. His sandals were so old that he had repaired them more times than he could remember. And his small piece of farmland barely produced enough food to keep him alive. Still, Koffi was known as a kind man. If his neighbor needed help carrying firewood, Koffi helped. If an elderly woman needed water from the well, Koffi carried her bucket. He didn't have much, but what little he had, he was willing to share. Then came the longest dry season Nambala had seen in years. The earth became hard, crops died, food became expensive. And for the first time in his life, Koffi began going to bed hungry. One evening, he traveled to a neighboring village, hoping to sell the last vegetables from his dying field. He spent the entire day at the market, but almost no one bought anything. By sunset, Koffi had earned only a few coins. He bought a small piece of millet bread and began the long walk home. The road to Nambala passed through a forest. Normally, Koffi avoided traveling there after dark, but that night he had no choice. He had been walking for nearly an hour when he heard something, a voice. "My son." Koffi stopped. He looked behind him. Nothing. Then he heard it again. "My son, please." This time, the voice came from beneath a large tree. Koffi approached carefully. An old woman was sitting on the ground. Her clothes were covered in dust, her feet were bare, and beside her was a small woven basket. "Are you hurt?" Koffi asked. The woman shook her head. "I am thirsty." Koffi looked at the small gourd hanging from his shoulder. He had only a little water left. The village was still far away, but he handed it to her. "Drink." The woman drank slowly. When she finished, there was almost nothing left. Then her eyes moved toward the small package in Koffi's hand. "And food?" Koffi looked down. That was his dinner, his only meal since morning. For a moment he hesitated. Then he sat beside her, broke the millet bread in half, and handed her a piece. The woman ate. When she finished, she looked at Koffi for a long time. "You gave me water when you were thirsty." Koffi said nothing. "You gave me food when you were hungry." Koffi smiled. "You needed it more than I did." The old woman slowly stood. Then she reached for the woven basket beside her. She opened it. Inside was a chicken, a black hen. But there was something unusual about it. Its feathers were darker than anything Koffi had ever seen. Under the moonlight, they almost appeared blue. The old woman lifted the chicken and placed it in Koffi's arms. "Take her." Koffi stared at her. "I can't pay you." "I didn't ask you to." "But why are you giving me a chicken?" The woman smiled. "Because kindness should never return home empty-handed." Koffi looked at the hen, Then, back at the woman, she leaned closer. "Every night, this chicken will give you enough eggs so that you will never have to go hungry again." Koffi almost laughed. He thought the woman was joking, but her expression remained serious. "There is only one rule." Koffi listened carefully. "Never ask her to give you more than you need." Koffi nodded. "That is all?" "That is all." "Then I promise." The woman stared directly into his eyes. "Promises are easy to make when your stomach is empty, Koffi." He froze. He had never told her his name. "How did you—" But the old woman was already walking away. Within seconds, she disappeared into the darkness. The first eggs. Koffi carried the black hen home. He placed her inside a small wooden enclosure beside his house and went to sleep. The next morning, he woke to the sound of the hen scratching against the wood. When he opened the enclosure, Koffi couldn't believe his eyes.
There were 12 eggs beneath her. 12. From one chicken. He counted them twice, then a third time. He cooked 2 for breakfast. He took the remaining 10 to the market and sold them. The following morning, there were 12 more. And the morning after that, another 12. Every day the same thing happened. Koffi could finally eat properly. He bought rice, oil, fresh vegetables. He repaired the hole in his roof. For the first time in months, Koffi went to bed without worrying about tomorrow. And he remembered the old woman's warning, never ask for more than you need. For a while, Koffi obeyed, but then something changed. One afternoon, he sat outside his house counting the coins he had earned. It was more money than he usually made in an entire week.
He looked at the black hen, then at the coins, and a thought entered his mind. If one chicken could give him 12 eggs, what would happen if there were 2? Koffi immediately pushed the thought away. He remembered his promise. But the next day, the thought returned. And this time, it stayed. More Koffi went to the market and bought another hen. He placed it inside the same enclosure as the black chicken. The next morning, Koffi ran outside. His mouth fell open. There weren't 12 eggs. There were 24. Koffi stared at the ordinary hen. Somehow, it had changed. That evening, Koffi bought another chicken, then another. Within a week, he owned 7. And every morning, there were more eggs. Dozens became hundreds. Soon, Koffi needed large baskets to carry them to the market. People noticed. "How can 7 chickens produce all of this?" one woman asked. Koffi laughed. "My chickens are simply very healthy." People laughed with him, but not everyone believed him. An elderly market woman named Mama Sira watched Koffi carefully. She had sold eggs for nearly 40 years. She knew chickens, and she knew that what Koffi was doing was impossible. Still, she said nothing. Meanwhile, Koffi's life changed quickly. He repaired his house, then decided repairing it wasn't enough, so he built a bigger one. He bought beautiful clothes, new sandals, goats, furniture. He hired 2 young men to carry his baskets to the market. People who had barely noticed him before now greeted him everywhere he went. "Koffi! Come sit with us! Have something to drink!" And Koffi loved it. One afternoon, Mama Sira approached him. "You seem happy," she said. "I am." "And are you satisfied?" Koffi laughed. "Of course." Mama Sira looked at the baskets of eggs. "Then why do you keep wanting more?" Koffi's smile disappeared. "What are you talking about?" The old woman shrugged. "Nothing." She began walking away. Then she stopped. "Just remember something, my son." Koffi waited. "Wealth that arrives faster than the rain can disappear faster than the wind." Koffi shook his head. "She is jealous," he whispered. But that night, something happened.
The voice's Koffi woke suddenly. He had heard someone speaking outside. He sat up. Silence. Then, a whisper. Koffi got out of bed. "Who's there?" No answer. He picked up an oil lamp and walked outside. His courtyard was empty. The gate was locked. His goats were sleeping. His 7 chickens stood quietly inside their enclosure. Koffi checked behind the house. Nothing. He went back inside. Then he heard it again. A voice. He had enough. Koffi froze. Another voice answered. But enough is no longer enough for him. Koffi's hands began to shake. The voices were coming from the chicken enclosure. He slowly walked toward it. The whispering stopped. Koffi raised his lamp. 7 chickens stared back at him. He laughed nervously. "I need sleep." He returned to bed, but he didn't sleep. The following night, Koffi decided to stay awake. He sat beside his window. 11 o'clock passed. Nothing. Then midnight arrived. The black hen slowly walked out of the enclosure. She stopped in the middle of the courtyard and looked directly at Koffi's window. Koffi. His entire body went cold. The hen had spoken. "Koffi." He slowly opened the door. "What are you?" The chicken tilted her head. "You already know what I am." Koffi stepped backward. "You can talk?" "When necessary." "What do you want?" "To remind you." "Of what?" "Your promise." Koffi immediately understood. The old woman, the forest. "Never ask for more than you need." Koffi looked away. "I haven't done anything wrong." The black hen remained still. "I bought those other chickens with my own money." "You had enough." "I am only trying to improve my life." "You had enough." Koffi became angry. "Enough according to who?" The other 6 chickens slowly emerged from the enclosure. Koffi stared at them. Then something unexpected happened. A different thought entered his mind. If this chicken could speak, if it was truly magical, maybe eggs weren't the only thing it could give him. Koffi stepped closer. "Do you know where gold can be found?" The black hen said nothing. "There are stories about gold hidden in the hills beyond Nambala. Do you know where it is?" Silence. "Tell me." Finally, the hen spoke. "When you first brought me home, 12 eggs made you happy." Koffi frowned. "Things are different now." "No, Koffi." The hen took 1 step toward him. "Things are the same." Another step. "You are different." Koffi slammed the door and went inside. 20 more chickens. The following morning, Koffi was furious. He convinced himself that the chicken was trying to frighten him. After all, why should he feel guilty? Was wanting a better life a crime? Was wanting more money wrong? By midday, he had made his decision. He traveled to the largest market in the region and bought 20 chickens. People stared as Koffi returned to Nambala with them. Mama Sira watched from her stall. "Koffi!" He ignored her. That evening, he placed all 20 chickens beside the original 7. 27 chickens. Before closing the enclosure, he looked at the black hen. "You don't decide how much is enough for me." Then he locked the door. That night, Koffi slept better than he had in days. Until... crack! His eyes opened. Something had struck the front door. Then again, crack! Koffi jumped out of bed. He tried to open the door. It wouldn't move. Something was blocking it from outside. He rushed to the window, and what he saw made him speechless. Eggs. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. His entire courtyard was covered. Koffi stared for several seconds. Then slowly, he smiled. "I knew it." He began laughing. "I knew it!" He rushed outside through the back door. Eggs reached above his ankles. The chickens continued laying more. Koffi grabbed a basket, then another. "This is it," he laughed. "I'll be the richest man in Nambala." But the chickens didn't stop. Soon the eggs reached his knees. Koffi's smile disappeared. "That's enough." The chickens continued. More eggs rolled across the courtyard. They piled against the walls. They covered the steps. Stop! Nothing happened. Stop! Koffi began throwing eggs over the fence, but for every egg he removed, more appeared. He called his workers, then his neighbors. Soon dozens of villagers were carrying baskets away from the house, but it made no difference. The eggs kept coming. By sunrise, they were piled against Koffi's windows. Part of the chicken enclosure collapsed under their weight. Koffi pushed through the mountain of eggs. Please! The black hen stared at him. I said stop! Nothing. Finally, Koffi fell to his knees. I don't want any more. And suddenly, everything stopped. Not a single chicken moved. The entire village became silent. Then a woman's voice came from behind him. Are you sure? Koffi slowly turned around. His eyes widened. Standing beneath the tree outside his house was the old woman from the forest. The price of enough. Koffi ran toward her. Please, make it stop. The woman looked around at the thousands of eggs. Why? Because it's too much. She raised an eyebrow. Too much? Yes, but yesterday what you had wasn't enough. Koffi had no answer. The old woman walked toward the black hen and lifted her into her arms. Tell me something, Koffi. He looked at her. When I found you in the forest, what did you want? Food. And when you had food? Koffi remained silent. You wanted money. She took another step. And when you had money? A better house, Koffi whispered. And when you had the house? More money. And after that? Koffi looked at the ground. The old woman continued. More chickens, more land, more respect, more wealth. She moved closer. And now you want gold. Koffi closed his eyes. The woman asked one final question. When were you planning to have enough? Koffi opened his mouth. Nothing came out. For the first time, he realized he didn't know. If he had found the gold, he would have wanted more gold. If he became the richest man in Nambala, he would have wanted to become the richest man in the region. There would always be something else. The old woman gently stroked the black hen's feathers, and suddenly, the eggs began disappearing. One by one, then faster. Hundreds vanished, then thousands. Koffi watched in shock. But the eggs weren't the only things disappearing. The expensive clothes inside his house vanished. His new furniture disappeared. The bags of coins beneath his bed disappeared. His goats disappeared. Then the walls of his large house began to change. Within moments, Koffi was standing in front of the same small mud brick house he had lived in before meeting the old woman. He stared around him. Everything was gone. Koffi fell to his knees. You took everything from me. The old woman shook her head. No. She pointed toward his house, then toward his field, then toward Koffi's hands. I returned everything you had before you decided it wasn't enough. Koffi looked at his hands. Tears filled his eyes. The old woman turned to leave. Wait! She stopped. Koffi looked at the black hen in her arms. Will I ever see her again? For the first time that morning, the old woman smiled. I hope you never need to. Then she walked away. Koffi watched until both the woman and the black hen disappeared beyond the trees. He never saw either of them again. Years later, Koffi returned to farming. At first, it was difficult. There were mornings when he missed the baskets of magical eggs. There were days when he remembered the money, the clothes, the large house. But slowly something changed. Koffi began appreciating small things again. A good harvest, rain after a dry week, a warm meal, a quiet evening. Eventually, he bought 3 ordinary chickens. Some mornings they laid 3 eggs, sometimes 2, sometimes none at all. And somehow, Koffi was happy. One morning, Mama Sira walked past his house. She saw Koffi sitting outside eating breakfast. She stopped. So, Koffi looked up. You are no longer the richest man in Nambala. Koffi smiled. He looked at his little house, his field, his chickens, his food. Then he looked back at Mama Sira. Maybe I never understood what being rich meant. Mama Sira smiled and continued walking. Years passed. Koffi grew older, and whenever children gathered around him, asking about the days when he used to arrive at the market with hundreds of eggs, he told them the story. He told them about the forest, the mysterious old woman, the black hen, and the night his entire home disappeared beneath a mountain of eggs. The children always laughed at that part, but Koffi always became serious before finishing, and he always ended his story with the same warning. Wanting a better life is not the same as never being satisfied. Because there is nothing wrong with working for more. There is nothing wrong with dreaming bigger. But if every blessing becomes too small the moment you receive it, if every achievement immediately becomes something you no longer appreciate, then no amount of money, success, or possessions will ever make you feel rich. Koffi learned that lesson the hard way. He once had a chicken that could give him more than he needed, and he lost her because he never learned when to say, "This is enough." The end.